Miguel, great to see you.
Hi.
How have you been? It's good to see you again.
Oh, crazy, crazy, crazy week. But yeah,
Of course.
we make the best out of it.
We always do. We always do. But
Yeah.
it's great to talk to you. And I know that we wanted to discuss, well, of course, perfume, but specifically, I think we're going to talk a bit about flankers.
Mhm.
And when we were briefly talking with Elena about the idea of flankers, I know one of the topics she brought up, which I thought was very interesting way to start the discussion, was what sort of purpose do flankers serve? If you go to many of the stores, like for example, here in the US, and I'm not sure what it's like in Portugal or not, but many flankers take up a lot of shelves, for example. So what are your thoughts about, a lot of the large perfume, like look at something like opium and all of the millions of flankers that there are, right? And they've gone so far from the original idea of opium, right? So what do you think is the purpose of flankers right now?
I don't mind flankers, but yeah, that's true that most of the time when we are publishing news in mainstream perfumery, most of them are about flankers, not nude pillar fragrances. I think flankers are useful when, this is probably a personal view, but I like the flankers to have the same DNA as the pillar with modifications. So you can see a lineage and you can see the family resemblance, but change so that you can even collect them. Or maybe you didn't like the original, but there's this new note that they added that makes it better for you or transforms it. I don't like it when flankers are so different that they don't have any relation with each other, with the original one. Or when there are so many flankers like Miss Dior or J'adore. I don't know. For example, my mother likes one J'adore, but she doesn't know which one because they all look the same and the names are so similar. So I don't know which one to get for her because she likes one of them, but who knows what the flanker is. So,
right, because there was a time when the flanker there would just be 2 or 3 for a fragrance, right? But now I think for something like J'adore, there's what, 10 or 12 or something like that, maybe?
I think Miss Dior should be around 30 flankers.
No,
yeah, you can go to Fragrantica and count them. So many that you lost count and you don't know anymore which one is your flanker.
But to your point, something I thought that was interesting, and you can tell me your thoughts on this one, but I just did some research, I think it was back in April, I did an article about Shalimar, which I hardly knew at all as a perfume. And I smelled so many flankers and original and some vintage, and I kind of was able to gauge each of the different ones. And I was really surprised that some of the flankers were really good and interesting. To me, at least, I could definitely see that original DNA being woven through each of them. Like there was still a little bit of smoke, a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of, but there was still bergamot in each of them. Like, there was only 1 or 2 that I felt were maybe going a little bit far, but or still had vanilla in the center of it, so there was like that, the basic molecules, they kept a handful of them in the center and then kind of, did their changes on the top of it, but it still was Shalimar essentially with each of the flankers. So that to me was an example of it being done well, right? To the point you made about.
There was a fresh one. Or fresh or something. Very, very nice. Very nice Shalimar. But Guerlain usually they respect the flankers, even with, for example, this L'Homme Idéal. I'm not particularly fond of this line, but you can see the thread that links all of them. Even Shalimar flankers, yes, but the Mont Guerlain also, there is this sweetness that is the same in all of them. So yeah, they are true flankers, but still too much. Because we all like novelties, right? This is like a duality. If the flankers are all close to each other but slightly different, we say that there's no novelty. But when the flankers don't have anything to do with the original, we say that's not a flanker. But we are really never happy, right?
We are not. No. Well, actually, and I'm going to use that example to sort of kick off something where I felt that one flanker that I really love has very little to do with the original, which is not a good flanker, I guess. But the Dior Homme cologne, which is just like complete woody, lemony freshness, really, is not what the original cologne was like at all. But which made me wonder, well, what was the actual purpose of this in a way? Was it just to were they acknowledging like, yeah, this was pretty popular format, so we ought to just give them a summer version,
I think, and you also know this, it's very expensive to create a new bottle and a new name and a new everything. It's very expensive.
Extremely. So
if you take the same bottle and you just change the color, it's much cheaper to create a new perfume.
I wouldn't doubt what you're saying, because it basically, I mean, and it's a great bottle. It's like, it's a fantastic, it's like a, it's a monolith, really, and it's such a fantastically fresh, it's one of the go-to summer things that I wear.
Also like it very much.
Yeah, extremely good for a mild citrus that isn't too like sharp, but also has like that gentle woody, and it's like slightly artificial, which I like about it. There's something a bit like man-made in there, which I deliberately man-made, which I like. Yeah, but you're right. It could just be something about easy availability of the bottle and in the format.
But yeah, it has nothing to do with the original. The original was powdery, woody, sweety, a little bit in the amber zone.
Yep.
And this is a lemony, woody thing. So nothing to do.
I think it may be that they could just fit together well on your shelf.
Yeah. They look good together also, like a library of Dior Homme. Yes.
That's right, exactly.
And then there's the new one, which and when they take the same name.
Yeah. Well, what is the
new Dior Homme?
Yeah.
It's called Dior Homme, the same, but the lettering is different. The bottle changed a little bit. And the scent is completely different.
Yes, it's completely different. Yes, of course, I remember this. In fact,
that confuses me.
It confused me, and it confused a lot of people as well. And I'm not sure. And then there was a race to grab the original formulation, right? So I don't even know what it would smell like if I were to buy Dior, like the classic Dior Homme right now.
I still have. Yeah. When Dior I think it was the Dior Homme Intense was launched. Dior here had a press presentation. They gave us a bottle to each journalist. And I was with a group of different journalists. No one liked it. So I got like 5 bottles. Everyone gave me that bottle. So I had 5 bottles. I used 4 and I still have 1. Considered now a very prized vintage because it's the first formulation.
That's excellent. So show me some things that you have there. I'd love to see.
I was spraying and I will spray some more because this is one of those fragrances you can use the whole bottle without being too much. This is Caron pour un homme. I don't know
total classic, yeah.
Pour un homme, this is the old flanker. So,
and tell me how this is different from the original.
So I'll probably start from the beginning. Okay. I don't have the original. I only have the flankers.
Funny. Yeah, which is so funny.
But almost all of them are very similar to the original. However, I have the pre-original. This is a vintage bottle of the Parfum pour un homme, which was called, in the beginning, it was called Impact. It was Impact pour un homme.
Oh, okay.
And it was a perfume concentration. And from this, they immediately derived to the pour un homme classic that everyone knows.
Right.
But they gave me this bottle when they discontinued it, saying, okay, so we are not going to make this anymore. So here's for you. Yep. So this is the original formulation,
right?
And just a little bit more concentrated because it's a parfum, and it's that super classic, fresh lavender fougere with vanilla, coumarin, and citrus on top. It sounds simple, and it is indeed kind of simple, but it's a combination that is flawless and works perfectly.
And no one has made a better version of it, I don't think.
It's for me, it's the reference for lavender. If you like lavender, there's nothing better than pour un homme.
Yeah.
And then they had, let me see if I get this right chronologically. I have this one from 2014. This is the millésime version. It has a deeper, sweet note of amber and vanilla. and it has I think it has a special harvest of lavender that year. So they only produced it in 2014. It has the date here, millésime 2014. So this is special. It's more oriental, if you can say that word, but it's more.
Would you wear this? Like, is this something like? Would you wear it at night, or I mean, like, is it that kind of a feel?
I think they all are completely versatile, but this is the deeper one for sure.
Okay.
It's sweeter than all the others, but nevertheless, it's very, very, very close to the original. Then I have the modern parfum, which I think is kind of similar to this one.
Yeah.
Only the bottle changed.
So that's what I was going to ask you, but you said you don't have the current. So is it, people have told me that it's more or less just a slightly stronger version of the eau de toilette that most people smell. Okay.
I would say it's the same ingredients, just different concentration. And then they had this one. This is the sports one.
Sports, yeah. Like, what is that? This is the one I'm most curious about. What is it?
This is the one that shifts really from all the other ones. This is still lavender, but as I feel like it has, I like it very, very much. There's citrus on top, much stronger. The citrus note is much stronger and much more synthetic.
Okay.
But it's fizzy. It's very, very fizzy and electric fresh with lots of molecules. I think in the base, they use a lot of modern molecules and they're really modernized. But the key to its shifting, it's lemongrass, which almost superimposes to the lavender. So it's very aromatic, but aromatic in a different way. And it's very, very modern, more modern than all the other ones. I mean, Pour un Homme is timeless, but this is the most modern one.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because when I do smell Pour un Homme, I always think could have been worn in mid 19th century or something.
Yeah.
But that's curious. You mentioned that this one is specifically modern.
And finally, I don't know if there's any other one, but I have the L'Eau, which is
I think that's
the dilution of the eau de toilette. Maybe it sounds very skeletal to me. It's it doesn't last that long. It's very much more abstract. Okay, but it's nice because sometimes I like this like quick refreshment that goes away.
Right.
I like that the eau de cologne. This is like an eau de cologne, more I would say. But still, the bottle is really nice. But keeps the same composition, but much more diluted and a little abstract, I would say.
So interesting. Yeah, it's a classic fragrance, and I really want to get some of those flankers actually, because it sounds also that they don't go too far from the central idea from what you.
Yeah, I have to now that because I sprayed it. There's a mint note. It's very nice. Mint.
Oh, which I really like mint.
In the sport one. The sport is really, really fascinating because they really did something different. I like it very much.
It's interesting too, that whole concept of the sport fragrance, because if you think about it, it's come in and out of fashion, the idea of a sport fragrance. Like now I think it's sort of a little bit on the outs, like now we have, the eau de parfums are such a big deal. And then also like these darker versions, like of course the oud versions or the amber versions of things seem to be a big deal. But I've seen less sport versions of things than I used to, which is kind of interesting.
I have this thing in my mind, when it's sport, it means it's not so good.
Right. Well, I always just see this football or soccer ball, right, or something, very, just like, I don't know, just like something about that it can only be worn between like 10 and 2, in a day or something.
And you associate it with shower gel or deodorant.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Show me some other things that you have there.
We just published something about coriander.
We did, right?
In Fragrantica, and I've spoken about coriander. I'm on my 3rd or 4th bottle, and I still have 4 backup bottles because I can't get enough of this. It's so good.
It's so good. No, it really is. It's what I love about it too is it's got for me, at first it can smell just like that sort of sharp green sheeper kind of smell, and then all of a sudden that really strong note of pure like coriander seeds just like comes straight out. It actually does come out to me like very kind of sharp, but then it become floral again and a little soapy again. You know what I mean? It's like these strange waves but it's a fascinating smell. It's an absolutely fascinating smell.
Transparent enough to make it easy to wear.
Yeah, I agree.
I have a lot of flankers. In fact, I only brought one. This is the eau de parfum.
Right.
But there's an eau de toilette and there's a parfum de toilette also.
A parfum de toilette.
They
so that
all
would be...
smell the same, but the eau de parfum has more rose. I feel the eau de toilette is more about the florals are more about the jasmine, and in the eau de parfum it's more about the rose.
Do you know, I had one, I was going to tell you, I had one version of that, which actually I ended up giving away to a friend of mine, but it was, did you ever see it was the bath oil version, which people actually started to use as an oil perfume because it was so strong. Like it was like way too strong to use as a bath oil. Like you'd come out smelling like, way too much.
I want that one.
But here's the thing is apparently it only was produced for a few years because it was so strong and people didn't quite make sense on the market. So the few bottles that are out there they cost a fortune, but I'll see if I can find one.
I think it's such a cute little perfume. For me, the first time I started wearing coriander, by coincidence, I was staying at a hotel, like this 5-star resort with a spa and everything. And I only brought one bottle, and it was coriander. And I wore it all week. And it was such a relaxing experience that for me, coriander is always the scent of spas and wellness and well-being. Nice. But they do have this eau de coriander.
And tell me about this, because I have not smelled this one.
Crazy. This is completely different. There's nothing really of the original inside.
See, I'm actually going to take notes on this one.
It smells like sour mandarins, oranges, some marine molecules. It's freezingly fresh. It's fun. If you like super strong citruses, with the bitter, sour, sharp edge to it, it's interesting, but there's nothing. The bottle is cute. The bottle.
It's sort of like the orange version of the green one, then, right?
Yeah, because the green one also has this kind of.
That's sort of marbleized.
Very nice.
Does it have anything similar to like? Do you actually smell the cilantro or coriander or anything inside that?
I wouldn't say so. I think it's completely different. Nothing to do.
And I think that's it, right? They haven't made anything else. That's it for flankers, right? Isn't it?
Oh, so they have eau de toilette, eau de parfum, parfum de toilette, and eau de coriander. I think it's enough.
Oh, no, right. So they have lots of
no. They also have a tiny, tiny bottle, which is the parfum concentration.
Like the pure parfum.
I've seen it online only, but they do have it.
Okay. All right. So there's another like kind of holy grail type thing to look for. So, all right. Well, I will talk about another great flanker. So a lot of people like the Elixir de Merveille, the Merveille series from Hermes. I like many of them. There was a low that came out, which was and an ombre, which came out in the past couple of years, both of which were very good. And this one in particular, the Elixir, which really I have to say in some ways does not have much. I actually don't think it has a lot to do with the original. So maybe this is a failure as a flanker, but this is one of the most joyful of all fragrances I've smelled. And there's nothing that quite hits some of the spots that this one does. It's very citrusy with pine notes in it as well. And it's sunny. It has like a really distinctly caramel buttery note in here as well too. This sort of piney aspect is just perfect because it's
love
hard
piney fragrances. It's not very often used, but I love pine.
It's very hard to do pine that's sweet in a way that works well. So it's sort of like that balsam fir kind of note, which as a perfumer, it's like that beautiful Christmassy kind of pine smell, It's so wonderfully done. And I think it was such a departure, though, from the main line of the fragrances that I
Aren't they all a little different? There's the blue bottle, which is also different.
Yes, right? Extremely. Yeah, like that one is very different, and the ombre, which came out, is very different as well too. And I'm trying to remember what was in that one in particular, but they have been. So in a way, I wonder too if it may be also, you're right, like if the bottle, I mean, it's a really funky bottle, so they may say, well, we've got the bottles, but I think the notion is it's a bit of like a snow dome, you know, like with the little flecks of stuff here. So it kind of does say you can shake it up and it creates a new landscape, right? So they're kind of opening it up and saying it could be anything. So that maybe it's a good storyline, you know, in a way to say we could put anything in here if we wanted, in a way, which I sort of do like that idea of, if you're going to create something that'll have a lot of flankers, like start it out as a good story to start it, you know, in a way. But this is a real beautiful version of a flanker of that series, I would say. On that note, I'll also talk about, I just have a sample of this, but there's a recent flanker that I really liked a lot, which is a bit of, I've been noticing this trend, and I don't know if you've seen this, but there's been a lot of sweet gourmands, of course, but this sort of ice cream gourmands, or like these sweet creamy gourmands, like, or cold, how can I say it? Cold gourmands, if that makes sense, like more sherbet glacé.
This mimicking the smell of ice cream
a bit, yeah, but also so instead of it being kind of just warm, dark, sugary, it's more like cold, sugary. As a gourmand, I don't know
if that's any better.
No, it may not be better at all, but it's a trend. Right? It's the, what would you call it? It's the what's the Italian gelato?
Yes,
the gelato trend or something. But I just I happened to this Valentino Born in Roma yellow, which they've done a few colors, and this is the men's version, which I found really interesting because the women's version they sort of have gendered this fragrance. This is far more Baroque and intense, and it goes all over the place in terms of all sorts of notes. There's bright lemon in here, and actually I am looking at our site a bit because there's a bunch
curious
of different
because the latest Valentinos are all a little uninteresting to me, but I'll explore that one.
Yeah, this one is pretty interesting. There's like ginger, there's some pineapple. Pineapple is the thing of these days, of course, but and like gingerbread, and then some cedar. So it would sound on paper almost like a Serge Lutens type of thing, but it's not that intense. It's not as intense as a Serge Lutens. Imagine adding a lot more air and lift to that, and that's what you'd get. But it's a very engaging. Like, I was quite surprised at this note listing, because mixing ginger and pineapple, vanilla and spice, things like that, that's not really very typical. That's a little bit edgy, you know? Yeah. And I really like this one. But for that series,
I'll have to look for it. Also, Elena was mentioning last time we spoke about Michael Kors. There's this Gorgeous, which is kind of new, and then there's Super Gorgeous, I think. And they have nothing to do with each other, I think. And I'm very curious to smell the Gorgeous one, because Elena said it was like this airy, jasmine-y, white floral, but very, very pleasant. This Born in Rome that you are talking about, and the Gorgeous are the ones that I'm going to explore when I go to the mall. I would like to talk about Marc-Antoine Barrois, who came up with very successful 3 perfumes, or at least there is one that was nominated for some awards. For me, it's a little confusing because they all smell equally interesting, but they all smell the same to me, but with different changes. So they are the true flankers. Even though one is not a flanker, but I'll explain. All of them were made by Canton Biche, French perfumer. So the first one was this B683.
Right, which has huge fans.
Yeah,
I know, like,
and it deserves so. You know, I don't know if it's hugely innovative, but Canton Biche really managed to create a very distinctive signature here. You know, when you meet someone, and that someone has such distinct facial features or dresses in a certain way that's so interesting, you don't know if you like it or not, but you cannot forget that person. And this is it. I like it very much. I think I would describe it as a very woody, full of synthetic molecules, done in a very good way, and with a lot of violet leaves and saffron.
This is part of
this tension.
The thing that I've always liked is the saffron. I love saffron. Yeah. Saffron can be mixed really well with synthetics, like, so that it takes on that. It, like you said, it has a tension in there, like between what feels like natural and synthetic things, which is really arresting and kind of, it almost stops you a bit.
I like that tension. I like fragrances with that kind of tension. I know Marc-Antoine, and he was telling me when he launched this that he was working on another perfume with Canton Biche, and then Ganymede came out.
Right.
And people love this also. But I know, well, if they love the first one, they gotta love the second one, because for me, it's 85% the same stuff.
I have not smelled Ganymede. What is
it? Has different enough to be a different perfume, of course, but it's a little, Ganymede is a little screechy to me, in the sense that the synthetic molecules are amped up a little bit more, so it crosses the border, and it's super, 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 super loud. It lasts all day and screams all day, even though it's the same fragrance, and it has an added immortelle note to it. So it's a little bit sweeter, less spicy.
Okay.
But it's so close to the first one. So they are not flankers, in fact. One is called B683, the other is Ganymede. They have different concepts, but the notes to me are almost the same. Only tweaked enoughly to make it different, of course.
Right.
And then more recently, they came up with B683 again, but an extract version.
Oh, right. I remember when this came out. That's right. So, and the idea just being like that it's more
again,
intense.
It's the same perfume, slightly changed, darker. It's darker. It has more leathery aspects on the base note. It has some sweetness also. So it almost verges on the Middle Eastern, but it's not quite. But still, it's the same signature. It's like they took the same heart, they put the same heart in all the fragrances and changed a little bit of the top and base. So what do I have to say about this? Okay, you discovered a great combination. It works. It's amazing, but I would like to see something different.
I did think it was. I remember when I first smelled the B6. I forget the name, but it's
I always forget the name.
It's the name of is it the name of an asteroid or a constellation?
I think it's the name of the planet where Little Prince was.
Oh, right, the Petit Prince, right? Okay, that's right. Which that became a popular concept for a while.
Yes. Nishana also had something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But it was such a singular, like you were saying, it was such a specific profile of perfume that I would almost hope that the next one would have been equally odd, or not odd, but equally singular and like, whoa, they came out with something really unusual or, something. So I am curious now to see what the next would be,
Yeah. I would like to see something because the brand itself is very linear and very cohesive, and it's not all over the place. Surprise us again, please.
Yeah. Agreed.
Because we like it.
So I'll jump to something that I think was kind of unusual that we were both around to see, and that was when Clinique started putting out their flankers, which I remember, I think all of us were a little like, is this going to be a good idea, right? Because how could you possibly screw around with
Aromatics
elixir, right? And I think we can all agree that these don't really have a lot to do with aromatics elixir, really. No. So the first one, if I'm correct,
the bottle does work. Yes. The same bottle, but it works. It's beautiful. It's in the black version also.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's beautiful. And there was what was the other one that came out? There were 2 or 3 more, I think. There was the aromatics in black, and then there was cherry that came out, which I have not smelled the cherry.
No, me neither.
Yeah, the black one was very cool as well too. But no, they really are great bottles. I will say that much. And I know I was really excited to smell this. And actually, I have to tell you, smelling this now, I haven't sprayed this in a while. All right, it's far from aromatics elixir. There's a bit of a sharpness in the beginning and there's the patchouli in the bottom.
I mean, it's definitely that connects them probably.
Yeah. And also there's like a little bit of violet leaf in here as well too.
I was very, 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 very glad when I smelled those flankers because I thought, well, I have an admiration for Estée Lauder as a brand, even though they have launched many pointless perfumes. But they usually come up with very qualitative. It smells like quality.
Yeah, perfume. No, agreed. No, they do, and they've made in some of their past fragrances. They've really stood the test of time. They're very interesting to go back to and
past
smell.
Is glorious. Estée Lauder's past is glorious.
Yeah. It's fascinating to smell some of the stuff in the past. It's, I have to say, this is very, I mean, for anyone who likes aromatics elixir, and I think a lot of, it's sort of like, perfume people, even those, I know people who hate aromatics elixir, but they have a bottle of it because they just want to sort of study it, right? I think as an exercise in how can we look at the concept of this perfume in a modern light, not replicate it, not really make a true flanker.
It's very modern. It's very modern.
Yeah, it was an interesting project, and I would say it's successful because this is a really interesting and wearable perfume. It's also pretty intense. It's a very intense smell. It's a very full bouquet. Like the rose is very strong, orange blossoms very strong. I really like it. It's a pretty intense fragrance. Like
aromatics is the concept has always been quite bold.
Yes, very much.
So
yeah.
There's that in common between all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So they didn't skimp there or try to make something like a very, like sort of just for very young women and to be very like just this, gauzy veil or something like that. Like they actually did make another pretty intense perfume. And the black version as well too, I felt was also fairly intense. So yeah, good for them. I thought it was a good flanker. Yeah. I really like this one. Definitely.
I would also like to mention, speaking of classics, of course, we have Tea Rose.
Yes.
And this is the parfum. Oh, yeah, this is it the original or the flanker? Because there's another toilette and this is the parfum. If Pour un homme de Caron is my reference for lavender, this is my reference for rose.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned this because Elena and I were talking about Tea Rose as well.
That I remember, they have two flankers. One was Tea Rose Musk. But the only one I have is Tea Rose Jasmine.
Yeah, see, I don't have this, but what does this smell like? Is it like jasmine? Yeah, nice. Yes, it does.
Who would say? It's so strange.
It doesn't smell like jasmine. No, it does
really,
not.
Yeah, it really is. Doesn't come off as a flanker because it's so different. It's like Jasmine. And if you don't like jasmine, you will never like this because this is jasmine in your face, and not soft one. This is it doesn't smell very natural because Tea Rose smells like a natural rose, more or less.
Yeah, I think so as well.
But this jasmine, well, yeah. Because jasmine can have so many facets depending on the species of jasmine that you smell. So this can be one of them, or like a cocktail of jasmines. But it's really that it's jasmine.
Is it like a?
That's what it says on the tin.
The thing what I always find interesting about Tea Rose, of course, is that to me that's a very, like Elena made a good point. She said she thinks that's very much a rose that's a cellophane kind of rose, like a rose you'd buy in a florist shop, which I agree with. Like, I think it's a very fresh rosebud kind of rose. Now, is this jasmine like a freshly cut off the vine, cold kind of jasmine, or is this like a sultry dark, like kind of a?
It's based on benzyl acetate, so it's kind of varnish, like nail polish. A little nail polish.
I love that smell, actually.
Yeah. I like that the smell of that molecule. I think it's fun. It's not the most luxurious molecule that we can smell, but I think it's fun. And what you smell is really around that molecule. It's a cheap way of making a jasmine, but I like it, and it's wearable and fun. And of course, this is supposed to be a cheapie, and jasmine absolutely is not cheap at all.
Cheap, right? Exactly. So
if you see a perfume that costs less than 100 euros, and it says it has jasmine absolute and rose absolute, oh well.
They lie.
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, when we are talking about notes, we're not talking about ingredients, and that's the thing that we should mention more often. When they say jasmine absolute, it's something that smells like jasmine absolute.
Well, that's actually it's really good that you mentioned that, because I think when we do talk about it, it's normally like this jasmine in there. Someone has made an accord, and an accord is like a bunch of things put together to sort of recreate the notion of a certain idea of flower. They're probably going to be a mixture of a little bit of natural materials and quite a lot of synthetic materials.
And sometimes that works better than to use the absolute or the oil.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you there, because you're going to get probably a lot more longevity, usually a more three-dimensional sensation from it. So, I mean, a good example.
And even more originality, because you can take the flower and twist it just a little bit. It's still that flower, but there's something to it that makes it special.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a good example, I think, is something like a company like Chanel, which is, I think, very good at making accords that use a little bit of a natural material and then some synthetics to create very, very beautiful, abstract flowers.
Running out of flankers here, but I just wanted to mention something that's very close to my heart.
Yes, please do.
I was talking to you briefly. This is Parfum de Peau from the 80s, a classic shipper from Montana, and I love to see this bottle moving here on camera.
The very architectural bottle.
This is the vintage one, and they never stopped making it and never stopped producing. So that I have this shorter bottle, which is the modern formulation, and it's quite different. Because for cost reasons and for probably restrictions, many reasons can lead to reformulation. And they reformulated. And they knew that they weren't offering us the old version that so many people were asking for. So they made an effort to, and they called the perfumer to, and they asked, take the vintage and really try to make it as close as possible to the vintage, but looking at the modern restrictions in terms of formulation and also the cost, because this is not a very expensive perfume. And they came up with this Montana Peau Intense Eau de Parfum. So this is their answer to the original. And I would say it's very successful.
When did this come out, by the way? When was this?
2 years ago, I think.
Oh, so this was recent. So you could still probably get this then.
Yes, or one or 2 years ago. I have to check on that. Even the color is not exactly the same, but the bottle is the same. And yeah, the difference is the cap. The original had silver lettering, and this one is gold.
Got it. Okay.
Supposedly, it's a higher concentration with different ingredients, but the smell is supposed to copy the original. I wouldn't say it's 100% the same.
Okay.
But I would say it's 90, and that's close enough. You can still have the same signature. Probably it's a bit softer because the original was very angular and very all over the place and very extravagant perfume.
Right. I just checked it. It was 2019 it came out. Yeah, 2019 that came out. Yeah.
It's really, really good. If you're a fan of the Parfum de Peau and you were disappointed with the latest formulation, try the Peau Intense Eau de Parfum, because it really brings back the original formula with minor changes only.
I would like to smell this 2019 version, because I've smelled the modern version and it's nice, but I can tell that it probably was better in its day. Like you kind of have that feeling when you smell it that it's one of
the original was so spectacular and so over the top that
bam.
It's like I love it, and it's not an easy thing to wear. You have to be in the mood for it.
Right. Well, I remember it's fairly smoky, pretty ambery, floral. Like there's a lot of things.
Floral, spicy, animalic.
Yeah. Like all these things happening at one time. It's very intense fragrance. Yeah. Well, we've gone through quite a lot of fragrances.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah. For me, I guess the good part of a flanker is that it's sort of like a blank chalkboard for creativity for perfume houses, right? So if they do have an idea, instead of just continually churning out, I mean, I love when perfume houses that I like will churn out new ideas. That's great. But if they can put a small twist on something, and I mean, it could be really interesting that way.
And probably it's a less risky way of launching a perfume, because
that's a good point.
You can use the same bottle and the same communication, more or less.
Right.
So, but if it's a less risky operation, can you make it a riskier perfume?
That's right.
Can you please give us something more exciting or maybe quirky? So if you're saving on the cost of producing a new bottle, can you please put something even more strange, so that we are always excited about a new flanker, instead of, oh, it's a fresh one, it's an intense one with the same, like that black opium. I think I lost my interest completely in the
yeah, that's a good example where I think it's gone so far afield of its original idea that, I mean, I've smelled one of the flankers that it was pure ethyl maltol. It's like pure cotton candy or something like that. And I can't believe they even call it opium now. It should just be called like cotton candy or you know, I don't know, like sugar sweet or something. It's not that that's a bad concept, but it's not opium anymore. Like not even close to opium. So
not even close.
Yeah. So that may be where it's just stretching the idea way too far, probably.
Yeah.
Well, it has certainly been a pleasure talking with you again, my friend.
Maybe one day we can all do one video together, like physically together.
I know. Well, it's good. We certainly
it's getting close to that. It's getting close to that.
It is. I know. Well, it's great to see you, and I'm sure we'll be doing more of these again. And I know we talked about an idea that we'll probably be doing again soon, and I will talk to you about that. So
we'll come. We are coming back.
Yes, we are. All right. Well, have yourself a great day, and thank you for.
We can leave a clue. It has something to do with ethyl maltol.
Yes, very much. That is a good clue about what our next conversation is going to be about. A lot of ethyl maltol.
Yes.
Which that should be a very fun conversation. But all right. Well, I will see you soon, and hello and goodbye to all of our wonderful viewers. All right. I will see you soon. Take care.
Bye.